Please be seated. A lot has happened in the book of Esther since we read the beginning chapter last Friday. Because Saturday in the office readings, we were introduced to the character of Esther, a young Jewish woman who was in exile living there in Susa, which was the capital city of the Babylonians there, or actually I guess it was the kingdom that conquered Babylonia from King Ahasuerus. And so we met Esther, then we met Esther's cousin actually, whose name was Mordecai, who was actually much older than her, more like the age of an uncle, and he was raising her. And in that reading on Friday, we had read how King Ahasuerus had deposed his queen because she had disobeyed him and rebelled against him and made him mad, basically. And so he talked to his counselors, and they said, kick her out, find a new queen. In chapter 2, which was read on Saturday in the office, we found basically how Queen Esther was raised up by God, and she was chosen to be the new queen. Then yesterday, on Sunday, also in the daily office, the story continued, which I don't know how many people read the daily office on Sunday, maybe not many, because we're always told to focus on the Sunday readings from the Eucharist. But in the BCP, a lot of times, the Old Testament reading continues right on, even on Sunday, in the office, in the daily office scriptures. And so we saw there where a couple of things happened on the political scope in the kingdom there of the Assyria, King Ahasuerus. And he had raised up one of his officials named Haman to be like the very important person in his cabinet, in his kingdom. And Haman expected everybody to bow down to him whenever he passed by. Well, Esther's cousin Mordecai, who used to sit at the gate as one of the elders of Israel, and even though in exile, he still had an eldership position, he didn't want to bow down before Haman, because as a Jew, he was told, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve. So whenever Haman came by, he wouldn't bow down. Everybody else would bow down, but Haman was just, sitting there. And they were asking him, why you better bow down, you're going to be in trouble. This guy, he's got a lot of cane with King Ahasuerus. Why don't you bow down? And Haman told them, because I'm a Jew, and in my religion, we don't bow down to others. We don't bow down to men. And so when Haman began to inquire, what's wrong with this Mordecai guy, they told him he's Jewish. And Haman got furious. Haman got angry, really, really angry. And he was the kind of guy that just didn't get mad. He got even. Not only did he get even, he got way, way, way ahead. That's the kind of person he was. So he decided, I'm not going to give payback, not only to Mordecai, but to his entire race. And so he worked out a plan where not only would Mordecai be killed, but every Jew in all of the kingdom of Persia. That's pretty extreme, right? Imagine if some American made you mad and you decided to kill every American in the world. That's basically what happened. And the thing is, Haman had the authority to do that. And so Haman worked some subterfuge and talked to the king and said, king, there's a people in your country, they're just awful. They're rebellious, they have other gods, and they don't do things the way the Persians are supposed to do. And King Ahasuerus said, here's my ring, here's my seal, sign whatever you want, and I'll do it. I'll be behind it. Without really inquiring, investigating what's this all about. He didn't know it was just out of jealousy and out of anger. And so Haman basically passed a law that on a certain day in the future, they decided the day by casting lots. And the Lord was in it because when they cast the lots, it was the farthest possible day away in the calendar. This is where the Jews and even Christians today see the hand of God. When they cast the lot, it could have been tomorrow. It's Kill the Jews Day. But instead, it was the farthest possible day away. There's 250-something days in the Jewish calendar, and it was the 250-something day away. And so, very good for them. But that gave them time to plan. But what had happened was then this decree went out, and it said on this decree, everybody in every city all over Persia, in every province all over Persia, got free rein to kill every Jew they could find. It was open season on the Jews on that day. Because say, it's a couple of 100 days away into the year. And this is what's happened in, like I say, since Friday, since we were reading Esther. And then we see when Mordecai read the decree, heard the decree, he was mourning and fasting and putting on sackcloth and wailing. He couldn't do it in the king's court because there was a law that said nobody could wear sackcloth or mourn in the king's presence, which there's a spiritual principle there probably if we thought about it. But so Mordecai couldn't go into the palace. So Esther didn't know what was happening. So she sent messengers and said, ask Mordecai, why is he doing this? And that's where the reading comes in today. Mordecai said, here's what's happened. And told the messengers, and they went back to Esther. We're scheduled for destruction. We're slated for ethnic cleansing at the end of this year. And he said, you think about what you need to do. You're the queen. You got Kay with the king much more than anybody else, maybe even more than Haman. It's up to you to fix this. And Esther took the approach, it's not really in my hands. I can't really do what you say because there's rules that say I can't just walk up to the king and ask him something. He has to approach me. And because of the way the rules are, I really can't obey what you tell me. I can't follow your suggestion. And what we see there in the initial response of Esther is something that I've begun to realize is quite prevalent in the church, in the body of Christ, and I've seen it in myself. Sometimes there's a tendency, I don't know if it's an attitude or if it's even a spirit or what, but quite prevalent in the church. I can't do that. That's not really in my skill set. I'm not able. I'll do what I can, but I'm not able to do that. It's too much for me. I can't handle it. I'll just do something else because I can't. There's got to be somebody else who can do this. And that's really what Esther was telling telling Mordecai. I can't do this. Look for somebody else. Maybe you can do it. You're sitting there at the king's gate. But there's a very common attitude. I can't handle it. Somebody else will do it for me. I'm just not able. I'm too busy. I'm not equipped. I'm not prepared. I'm not called. And a lot even of our clergy in the CEC sometimes take that approach. It's not me. It's not for me. I can't do it. Too much. And as I said, I look in my life and I see that's a tendency with me. If there's something to be done, I'm going to need somebody's help. I got to have somebody else help me handle that. When all the time the Lord has said, I put you there. You take care of it. And just honest confession this morning, I see this sometimes in my life. Look for somebody else to handle the problem. Look for somebody else to deal with the situation. And it's kind of common amongst us. And the words that Mordecai told Esther, very strong, and I think it speaks to this situation, speaks to this attitude, it speaks to us. He said, nobody else has been brought into the palace to deal with this situation. He counted on. You were the one God put in the palace. You were the one that God put there with the influence. You're the one that won out over all those other maidens to be the queen. And what I hear coming from you, Esther, is just an excuse. Well, it'll be dangerous. It's going to be dangerous for us in a couple of 100 days too. For every Jew in the whole province, every Jew in the kingdom of Persia. We're all going to die. And you will too. Unless you do something. And then Mordecai said, if you don't step up and do what God anointed you to do what God called you to do, lead that church, lead that ministry, step out in creative ideas, step out in prayer and seeking the Lord and saying, Lord, what can we do in this situation to support the vision of the cathedral, to know God and make Him known? What can we do to support the direction of the bishop? What can we do to fulfill your task for us? If you don't step up and say, I'm the one, the Lord will raise up somebody else. But you'll be the one to miss out. God's kingdom won't miss out, but you will miss out. Said that Sion, because He put you there. And He equipped you. We read in the 2nd chapter, if we read our office on Saturday, all the great, great efforts that everybody went through to prepare all those maidens. And then there's a long course of treatment, a long course of preparations that they underwent. And that's the way it is with us. When God gives us a calling, He gives us a lot of preparation, and He gives us a lot of training. And the question is, what do we do with it? Do we just forget about it? Oh, I've got training. I've got a little plaque on my wall, a little paper that says I underwent this course. I underwent this seminar. Look at me, I've got this. But God gave us this training for a reason. Mordecai said, you're in the palace for a reason. Who knows? Maybe you're here for this very purpose. And Mordecai made it in the form of a question, but it wasn't really a question in his heart. In his heart, it was, that's why you're here. You're here because God wants to use you to save the Jewish people. By one simple act. Go in front of the king and tell him what's going on. It might cost me my life. So will doing nothing. And so, as I said, this really jumped out at me, leapt out at me a couple of weeks ago when I was planning ahead for working on some office memos that I have to keep ahead of when I prepare them. I can't just do it the same day that the reading's there because they have to be posted and stuff. But when I was looking at this, I saw this and said, you know, this is me. This is a message to me. And I believe it's a message to a lot of us. A message to a lot of us here. A message to a lot of our clergy. God's prepared us, and we can't take the attitude of, I'm just not ready. I'm going to need a lot of help. Somebody can do this for me. Somebody can do that for me. I'm too busy. I'm not qualified. I'm not ready. No, God says, I got you ready. I got you there. You're in the best position to do this. Just stand up, shake your shoulders, and say, I'm the one. Esther did that. At first, Esther was hesitant, but then she stopped and realized, I'm sure she prayed, and she says, cousin, you're right. I'll do what I have to do. If it costs me my life, I'll perish. But I'm going to do what God called me to do and put me in a position to do and enabled me to do. And that's where we all need to rise up and be. We need to rise up like Esther and understand we're here where we are for a reason. God put us in a place for a reason. And He didn't put us there to fail. And He didn't put us there just to sit back and relax and, okay, we'll just ride this out, hang around. Esther didn't have a ride this out attitude. Once she got her plan, once she realized what she had to do and took on the mantle and the calling, she listened to God, she made her plans, and she worked them out step by step. And it was a kind of a complicated plan. Basically, is have a dinner, have another dinner, have another dinner. But she thought it out, she heard from God, and she saved the day. She saved her people through the work of God. But it all started when she says, forget this excuse. I'm going to stand up and believe God that He will empower me to be what He's called me to be. So I challenge first of all myself this morning and all of us and whoever else we can share this with. Let's don't be passive. Let's don't believe the lie of the devil that we're just not there. We can't do it. God put us here. God called us. God appointed us, anointed us. We can. We shall. Amen?